Prince Harry nearly broke down in tears in court today, weeping about Meghan Markle's misery. And he was told to stop arguing back by the judge. Well, Prince Harry was giving evidence in his privacy claim against the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday in the High Court today.
Devastating moment for Prince Harry's reputation and credibility, as he argues with a judge while in the dock, contradicts himself, appears to fib about using the pseudonym Mr. Mischief.
A British prince didn't just clash with a judge once or twice, but 3 separate times in a single day, and that alone raised eyebrows fast. His legal team is reportedly pulling back at lightning speed, while his wife is nearly 5,000 miles away, calmly posting on Instagram like nothing is happening at all. This wasn't just uncomfortable, it was straight-up chaos unfolding in public. What was meant to be a clean, controlled courtroom moment quickly turned into something nobody could ignore. This is the real story of how Prince Harry's court case spiraled out of control in real time. And trust me, it runs way deeper than most people realize.
Prince Harry broke down in big boy tears as he gave some testimony today in his lawsuit against the Daily Mail, claiming that they have made his wife's life an absolute misery.
Prince Harry, right before we got on here, we also found out he's on the stand today in London. He's in court. I feel like every time we come on here, Prince Harry's in court. He doesn't look great in the court sketch, I'm going to be honest.
Well, as we all know, Prince Harry is in the UK. He is testifying around this case that he has against the Associated News.
On January 22nd, 2026, Prince Harry walked into London's High Court thinking this would be his defining justice moment. The plan was to appear focused, confident, and in command. Instead, things unraveled fast, and the energy shifted immediately. He's suing Associated Newspapers Limited, the company behind the Daily Mail and Mail, on Sunday, accusing them of phone hacking and illegal information gathering. The claims stretch from 2001 all the way to 2013, and the stakes are enormous. This is reportedly a $38 million legal battle, and Harry isn't fighting it alone. He wasn't standing alone either. Harry was leading a group of 7 high-profile names, including Elton John and Elizabeth Hurley, and this case was supposed to be his ultimate showdown with the British tabloids. This was meant to be his final face-off, his big reveal, his moment to expose how deep it all went and walk away publicly vindicated.
Arrogant and pig-headed Harry started arguing with the judge. This was just part of their exchange.
Everything going on with Harry today, I feel like it's a need to talk about his big boy man tears. He's so emotional, guys. His poor wife, she lives in misery in her $16 million mansion with her 4.4 million followers on Instagram, her Netflix deal, her show on Netflix, all these sorts of things, and she's so miserable.
Prince Harry, you're crying on the stand. In life, we don't always get what we want, right? We want friends, okay? We've all been in that situation. We want a friend, a loved one, a relative to take accountability, to apologize. It doesn't happen, okay? You're expecting a big newspaper conglomerate to come crawling to you to apologize. It's not gonna happen. You can either move on with your life.
But the second Harry took the witness stand, everything started slipping fast. The mood shifted instantly, and the plan he walked in with began to unravel in real time. Let's break this down step by step, because things got messy in a way nobody saw coming. Picture this: Harry sitting in the witness box, lights on him, room dead quiet. Within minutes, the Daily Mail's lawyer, Anthony White, starts firing off questions. But Harry isn't just answering them. He's pushing back hard, debating, challenging, and getting visibly heated right there in court. The tension shot straight through the roof. It got so intense that the judge had to step in not once, not twice, but 3 separate times. And this wasn't just any judge either. This was Justice Matthew Nicklin, a seasoned media law expert who's seen it all. Even he had to stop the proceedings because Harry wouldn't stop arguing his point.
I think Harry reveals more than he thinks he did, because he's of course trying to pull out the heartstrings about his wife, who honestly, I feel like the judge should have told him straight to his face, your wife's feelings have no bearing on this trial whatsoever, Harry. This is about Chelsea Cressida, your former girlfriend, you know? But he has to bring up his wife. I'm sure that's what his lawyer was doing. But I honestly have absolutely zero sympathy for him and his wife in this instance. If they had been quiet and dignified, would I have some more sympathy?
The first interruption came off almost calm and measured. The judge tried to slow things down and said, and this is a direct quote, "This is a big moment. You're doing exactly what lots of litigants do. You tend to argue back about what he's putting to you. You don't have to bear the burden of arguing the case today." That's from Mr. Sherborne. That's Harry's lawyer. The message couldn't have been clearer. Answer the questions, keep it tight, and let your legal team handle the real fight. That's literally what lawyers are paid to do, but Harry just wouldn't stop pushing back. By the second time the judge stepped in, the patience in the room was clearly running low, and you could feel the tension tightening with every exchange. Harry kept debating instead of giving straight answers, and by the third intervention, things turned firm fast.
Harry's evidence came forward a day. So Harry originally wasn't meant to be giving evidence until tomorrow. Now, I think it scrambled him a bit. He seemed uneasy from the moment he arrived. He didn't really settle properly in the witness box, and he came in, and Anthony White very cleverly immediately got him onto this thing of being part of the institution lane, and right from the off, Harry was on the defensive and very bristly and very abrasive. And the judge intervened 3 times to try and calm him down. I mean, the first time, which was the one that you showed there, he was actually quite sympathetic and he was quite like, look.
The conversation suddenly shifted into an argument over what actually qualifies as a journalistic source, and that's when the situation crossed a serious line. That's when the judge shut it down completely. He made it very clear and said, "Listen, I am a media lawyer. This is my job. I know exactly what I'm talking about." That wasn't advice. That was a hard stop. Think about that for a second. A prince going back and forth with a high court judge about media law inside the judge's own courtroom. That's not confidence. That's risky behavior under serious pressure. And here's why this matters more than people realize. This isn't a jury trial. There's no crowd to play to, no emotions to lean on, and no room for dramatic moments meant to sway public opinion. There's only one person deciding the outcome of this entire case, the same judge Harry clashed with 3 times in a single morning. That judge alone decides whether Harry wins or loses, full stop. And yet, Harry couldn't stay composed for even one full session. One legal analyst sitting in the courtroom later said Harry looked rattled, uneasy, and like he never truly settled into the witness box at all. The Daily Mail's legal team made a slick move the day before court, and it completely threw Harry off balance. They cut their opening arguments from a full day and a half down to just 90 minutes, which pushed Harry's testimony forward by an entire day, and the lack of preparation showed almost instantly. That sudden shift changed everything. This is where things started getting emotional and confusing fast, because during his testimony, Harry's voice cracked and he looked visibly shaken as he spoke directly from the courtroom. "They have made my wife's life an absolute misery. I think it is fundamentally wrong to have to put all of us through this again when all we were asking for is an apology and some accountability."
Showing off their home, their pool, their lifestyle.
I think part of him is happy to be there because he misses the British culture and he hates being at the house with Meghan. I think Prince Harry would rather travel to London to sit in a courthouse than be stuck in the asylum with her in Montecito. Okay, I just think that's the truth. And then some other bad news in Harry and Meghan world, their show has been canceled. Season 3 of With Love, Meghan has been canceled by Netflix. They won't be doing anymore, which I'm not shocked because nobody was watching it, okay? That show is like number 5,206 on the Netflix charts. So Harry and Meghan, I think they're done. Okay, Harry and Meghan, if I were you guys, your show's been canceled. You're not going to be the next Martha Stewart, Meghan. I mean, the fact that Meghan Markle had a cooking show and she moved pretzels from one bag into another was crazy.
At first, that sounds emotional and easy to sympathize with, right? The room felt heavy, and the moment landed hard. But then one key detail flips the entire situation on its head in a way most people didn't catch. This case is about alleged phone hacking and illegal information gathering that supposedly took place between 2001 and 2013, and that timeline matters more than anything here. Harry didn't even meet Meghan until 2016, which means she had absolutely nothing to do with the 14 articles he's challenging in this case. She wasn't involved, wasn't mentioned, and wasn't even present during that chapter of his life. That contradiction raised serious questions in the courtroom and instantly shifted how this testimony was being viewed by everyone watching closely. So the big question became impossible to ignore. Why was she suddenly front and center in his testimony? Why bring her up in a case where she has zero legal connection to what's being argued here? And this is where things got even stranger. While Harry stood alone in a London courtroom with no visible support beside him, no familiar face in the gallery, Meghan was back in Montecito, California, and reports say she was posting on Instagram that same week, showing off their home, their pool, and their lifestyle.
This is my job. I understand that this is a big moment for you, but you're making a mistake that a lot of people make. Let me just tell you, your job now is just to answer these questions. Let your legal team answer the case. And Harry seemed to kind of go, okay, my lord, yeah, whatever. Then he carried on, then he did it again, and then he did it a third time, and it was really bad the third time. So
the comment sections blew up instantly. One person wrote, "Why is he even mentioning her? She's nothing to do with the case and the years these claims are about." Another added, "Meghan is 5,000 miles away posting on social media while Harry falls apart in court." The reactions came fast and ruthless, and the optics couldn't have been worse. This couple built their entire public image around being united against the world, a full ride-or-die partnership where they face everything together. But when Harry stepped into what he calls the most important legal battle of his life, he was standing there alone, and people noticed immediately. The contrast was loud, and the silence beside him spoke volumes. And just when it seemed like the situation couldn't look any messier, things went from bad to unbelievable. Harry stood in that courtroom and complained about the media commercializing his private life, saying directly, "I've never believed that my life is open season to be commercialized by these people." And that statement stopped the room cold, because the contrast was impossible to miss once those words left his mouth. This is the same man who released a 400-page memoir called Spare, where he shared deeply personal family moments, private conversations, and even text messages between his wife and Catherine about bridesmaids' dresses. That wasn't subtle, and it definitely wasn't private. He openly spoke about losing his virginity, past drug use, and his military service, turning his own life story into a global product for millions to consume. That book alone made headlines everywhere and pulled in massive sales. Then came the multi-million-dollar Netflix documentary, where cameras followed him and Meghan through their most personal struggles, giving viewers a front-row seat into their private world. And after that, he sat down for a huge Oprah interview, watched by tens of millions worldwide, discussing deeply personal family matters in detail. So when he stood in court arguing that the media has no right to commercialize his life, the contradiction landed hard. It raised questions he clearly wasn't prepared to answer under pressure. One comment that pulled in over 1,200 likes summed it up perfectly.
When you look at him bringing up Meghan in this moment about what happened in the past, for me, it looks like he is trying to do what happened in the past because of what happened to Meghan in the present. But if it is about what happened to Meghan in the present, then why not bring a lawsuit about what happened to Meghan in the present? You know why he won't do that? Because, first of all, there's not other people that he can come in with this same lawsuit to strengthen his case like he has with the other people that are in on this court case, all these other people. It's just him and his life with this woman. But also, Meghan's life that she lived in the UK.
If Harry wanted privacy, he wouldn't have released Spare. That line spread fast. Another person followed up saying, "You can't sell your story to the media and then complain about media intrusion." That reaction caught fire immediately. The judge could see it, the lawyers could see it, and everyone watching from the outside could see it too. The issue here is simple, but it's explosive. Harry wants it both ways, and that contradiction was hanging over the courtroom like a storm nobody could ignore. He wants to make millions telling his own story, but at the same time, he doesn't want anyone else allowed to talk about it, frame it, or even question it. That tension never left the room, and then things got even more uncomfortable fast. When Chelsea Davy came up, people instantly froze. Remember her? Harry's former girlfriend, the one he dated for years before they split back in 2010, Chelsea has long moved on with her life. She's married, she has children, and she runs a successful jewelry business, all while staying far away from royal drama. She's lived quietly, privately, and with dignity, but suddenly, her name was dragged straight back into a courtroom she left behind years ago. Several of the articles Harry is complaining about involved Chelsea, and he spoke about how the press made her life difficult. He even revealed that he called her the night before his testimony to talk about what really happened back then. Think about that for a second. Imagine how Chelsea feels being pulled back into this. Imagine how her husband feels watching old chapters resurface in a public courtroom. Years ago, one comment even said, Chelsea should issue a cease and desist and stop Harry from using her name to prop up his court case. And that reaction didn't come out of nowhere. What made it even more awkward was the tone Harry used when talking about Chelsea in court. The emotion, the regret, that heavy what could have been energy was impossible to miss, and people picked up on it immediately. All of this was happening while his current wife was back in California, posting on Instagram like it was business as usual.
It is all caught up on an emotional high, emotional roller coaster of, having to work with the press, having to then be, part of the press's news gathering, story making arm, and there's no real balance between the two. But at the same time, that's just the life you get. It's a quid pro quo. You get this luxurious life. You're born into privilege, things you never had to work for. But the compromise to all of that is that now you have to put up with things in the press that probably do make your life miserable.
People caught that contrast instantly, and it did his image no favors at all. Then the Daily Mail's lawyers dropped another curveball that changed the energy in the room. They brought up something called the Mischief Facebook account, claiming Harry used this alias to contact journalists directly on social media. According to them, this included messages sent to Charlotte Griffiths from the Mail on Sunday. Harry denied it outright and didn't hesitate, but the legal team hinted they had receipts to back up their claim, and that made the situation even more tense. And it didn't stop there. One of the journalists Harry accused, Katie Nicholl, pushed back through her legal team and said, "No, Harry, you invited me to party with you at Kensington Roof Gardens in 2011. That statement landed heavy. Her side made it clear they weren't enemies at all. According to her account, they were in the same social circles, friendly, and on good terms at the time. That detail cracked his entire narrative wide open. It suggested Harry wasn't just an innocent target being chased by hostile reporters, but someone who knew how to play the media game when it worked in his favor. And now, with those details resurfacing in court, it looks like he's struggling to explain why the story suddenly changes when the spotlight doesn't benefit him anymore. And now we get to the most serious part of this entire mess. There are growing reports that key members of Harry's legal team have either resigned or are seriously considering walking away from the case, and that's not normal at all. When solicitors start stepping back in the middle of a trial, that's a massive red flag waving in plain sight.
So this is mostly over his time with Chelsea Davy. Not Meghan Markle, Chelsea Davy, the woman who I think honestly probably truly loved Harry for Harry. And I don't think she was all that interested in royalty, the royal trappings, in the money or the fame, anything like that. She is not interested in that. She's proven that over her years since. Meghan Markle, meanwhile, was absolutely attracted not to him, but to what he could give her. So let's keep going.
This isn't a small disagreement behind the scenes. This is something breaking down in real time. One legal analyst laid it out clearly, saying, "When lawyers walk away like that, it's usually because they believe their client's instructions are no longer sustainable, or the evidence has completely fallen apart." That statement hit hard. And here's the part that really stings. They aren't abandoning the law itself. They're abandoning Harry's version of events, and once you see it that way, the Daily Mail's strategy suddenly makes a lot more sense. They showed up loaded with emails, phone records, and documentation pointing to legitimate journalistic sources. That level of preparation is now putting Harry's entire case under serious pressure. This is where the case starts looking less like a clean fight for justice and more like a slow collapse happening right in front of everyone. Once the cracks started showing, everything followed. Court insiders began whispering that Harry's testimony wasn't landing the way he expected. Instead of sounding calm and credible, he came off scattered, emotional, and stuck in his own head. And in a courtroom like this, that's a big problem. Because when facts matter more than feelings, perception can shift fast, and once that happens, it's hard to recover. Multiple legal watchers quickly pointed out the same issue. Harry leaned heavily on assumptions instead of solid proof, and that gap became impossible to ignore. Over and over again, his answers were built around phrases like, "I believe this happened," or "I felt certain the press was behind it." But belief isn't evidence, and in a courtroom dealing with media law, that distinction matters a lot. The defense jumped on that weakness immediately. They didn't rush or overplay it. They simply let the record speak. At several key moments, Harry openly admitted he couldn't actually prove who leaked what or how certain stories were sourced. He suggested it must have come from illegal activity, but when pressed for details, things went vague fast. The defense lawyers didn't need raised voices or dramatic moves. They let the gaps sit there in silence, and in court, silence can hit harder than any argument. Observers also noticed how often Harry drifted back to his general distrust of the media instead of sticking to the specific articles being challenged. That emotional pattern might land well in interviews, but in a legal setting, it works against you. This trial isn't about feelings, reputation, or long-standing resentment. It's about evidence, sources, and verifiable facts. And once that line blurs, the entire case starts to wobble. This case is about proof, timelines, and sources, and Harry struggled to stay locked into that lane. The focus kept slipping, and that made things harder as the hours passed. Then came the moment that truly changed the temperature in the room. The defense highlighted how many of the stories Harry complained about could be traced back to public appearances, official statements, or well-known social connections, and that undercut the hacking claim in a major way. If information is already out there, it doesn't need to be taken illegally. That point landed quietly but powerfully. Some legal experts said this was the moment the judge visibly leaned in, not emotionally, but analytically. Sympathy was no longer part of the equation. The only question now was whether the claims could survive close inspection. And that's when the imbalance became obvious. The defense stayed calm, structured, and heavy on documents. Harry's side leaned hard on narrative, memory, and personal experience. People closely following the case noticed something else too. Harry often framed himself as powerless in the face of the press. But the court kept circling back to one undeniable fact. He is one of the most recognized people on the planet. Access, privilege, and influence kept coming up indirectly, and that contrast didn't help his argument at all. The idea that he had no control over his public image didn't fully add up under scrutiny. Online reactions only intensified as these details started leaking out, and the tone shifted fast. Commentators quickly started saying this case wasn't built on solid ground, but driven by emotion and long-held frustration. Some even questioned whether this lawsuit was ever truly about winning, or if it was about making a statement no matter the outcome. By the end of the day, the mood around the courtroom had clearly shifted. What started as a high-profile challenge to the tabloids now looked like a risky gamble that was spiraling fast. The confidence Harry walked in with didn't match the uncertainty he walked out carrying. And the most damaging part of all, none of this was happening quietly. Every stumble, every unclear answer, every correction from the judge was being documented, analyzed, and shared in real time. In a case centered on media power, Harry was once again losing control of the narrative, right in front of everyone. Then the defense laid everything out, and it landed hard. They showed that many of the 14 articles Harry is complaining about were built on information from people who willingly spoke to the press. That single detail changes everything. Some of those sources were reportedly people from Harry's own social circle, not anonymous figures hiding behind closed doors. That alone seriously undercuts the entire hacking narrative. And it didn't stop there. Journalists Rebecca English and Katie Nicholl are both set to testify. These aren't random bloggers or online gossip accounts. These are established professionals with long careers in the industry, and they're stepping forward to defend their reputations publicly. That move raises the stakes even higher and adds another layer of pressure to a case that's already looking increasingly fragile. They're not backing down at all, and that alone raises the stakes even higher. And now comes the part that's starting to look like a full financial nightmare closing in fast. If Harry loses this case, he doesn't just walk away disappointed. He could be on the hook for the Daily Mail's legal costs, and that could mean tens of millions of pounds. That kind of hit would shake anyone, no matter who you are. On top of that, reports say Harry still owes money from previous legal battles. Some sources even claim he's already sitting on roughly $38 million in debt, and this lawsuit was supposed to be his big moment, his payoff, his redemption arc, maybe even a settlement that could help clean up his money problems. Instead, it's turning into a very public unraveling that could seriously damage him financially. Now zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. Harry is stuck between two worlds, and neither one is holding him up anymore. There's the royal world he was born into, the one that protected him, smoothed over mistakes, and gave him endless advantages. He walked away from that world and burned those bridges publicly. He wrote a book tearing into that life, and now there's no way back. But the new world he tried to build in California isn't holding together either. The Netflix deal is gone, the Spotify partnership collapsed, and the projects meant to rebrand them didn't land the way they hoped. Even their charity efforts struggled to gain traction, and their overall brand has taken a noticeable hit. The safety nets that once caught him are gone, and the pressure is building fast. This case was supposed to change everything. Instead, it's exposing just how fragile the situation really is. After all of this lawsuit was supposed to fix everything. Instead, Harry argued with the judge 3 times in a single day. His legal team is reportedly stepping back. The evidence isn't lining up with his claims, and his credibility took a hit as contradictions from his own book came back into focus. And the person he says this fight is all about wasn't even in the courtroom. Public opinion didn't stay quiet for a second. The comment sections lit up immediately. One person wrote, "He's his own worst enemy," while another added, "Court is for facts, not feelings." One comment that kept getting shared over and over said, "Maybe if he doesn't like the press, he and his wife should stop phoning them." That reaction spread fast. Here's the hard truth people keep circling back to. Harry wanted to be seen as a warrior for justice, standing up to powerful media forces. Instead, many now see someone acting entitled, deflecting blame, and struggling to handle criticism while trying to control who gets to tell his story. He wants to profit from his life, but stop others from writing about it, and that contradiction just isn't landing well. The judge seems to see through it, the lawyers clearly see through it, and the public definitely sees through it too. The only person who doesn't appear to see it is Harry himself, and that might be the most uncomfortable part of this entire saga. So now the real question is this: is Harry right to take on the tabloids, or is this shaping up to be one of the biggest examples of public hypocrisy we've seen in years? If you've got thoughts, drop them in the comments below. If this breakdown made you see things differently, make sure you hit subscribe and stay locked in for more deep dives like this. Don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who needs to see it, and I'll catch you in the next one.